It is becoming increasingly clear that the assumptions President Donald Trump made, largely influenced by Benjamin Netanyahu, when initiating this war, have so far proven to be completely wrong. Trump made major miscalculations and based his decisions on flawed assessments, and now the entire world is paying the price. Major economic institutions are already warning that if this war does not stop immediately, it could severely damage not just the US economy, but the global economy as a whole. Let's go through Trump's assumptions one by one and compare them with reality. First miscalculation. Trump believed that the death of Ali Khamenei would lead to regime collapse in Iran. Before the war, Iranian citizens were already protesting against inflation and unemployment. The expectation was that they would return to the streets, overthrow the regime, and pave the way for a US and Israel-friendly government. Trump and Netanyahu even called on the Iranian people to rise up, but that didn't happen. The people who had previously protested against the regime did not return to the streets. Instead, many came out in support of the regime and in opposition to the US and Israeli war. The result so far, massive destruction in Iran, but no regime change. Instead, after the 86-year-old Khamenei, his 56-year-old son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has reportedly taken over as supreme leader, someone considered even more hardline. In other words, the goal of regime change appears to have completely failed. Second miscalculation. Trump assumed Iran would not close the Strait of Hormuz, or if it did, it would back down under US pressure. Alternatively, he believed shipping companies would continue operations with insurance guarantees and US naval escorts. None of that happened. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed, and oil prices have surged past $100 per barrel. According to American analysts, if the strait remains closed for 1 month, prices could hit $150 per barrel. After 2 months, they could reach $200. Trump had been warned by US intelligence and the Pentagon that attacking Iran alongside Israel could trigger exactly this scenario, but he ignored it. Now the entire world is suffering from skyrocketing oil and gas prices. Meanwhile, Trump has asked allies like the UK, Germany, Spain, South Korea, and Japan to send naval forces to reopen the strait, but they have all refused. China has instead called for an end to the war. Third miscalculation. Trump believed that even if oil supply was disrupted, the US and its allies could stabilize markets by releasing oil from emergency reserves. That didn't work either. Markets understand that the problem isn't oil production, it's oil transportation. Even though developed countries announced the release of 400 million barrels, including 170 million from the US, they can only supply an additional 1.5 to 2 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, about 20 million barrels per day, roughly 20% of global supply, normally pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This leaves a daily shortfall of around 18 million barrels. So once again, Trump's strategy has failed. In fact, he was forced to ease restrictions on Russia to maintain supply. Fourth miscalculation. Trump assumed Iran would not escalate by attacking Gulf countries based on previous limited responses. But this time, Iran responded immediately and aggressively, targeting US military bases, embassies, and oil infrastructure across the region. Trump later admitted that US personnel were not evacuated from Gulf countries beforehand because they did not anticipate this level of retaliation, highlighting how flawed the initial assessment was. Fifth miscalculation. Trump believed Iran had exhausted its missile capabilities after earlier conflicts, but this ignored lessons from the Ukraine war and underestimated Iran's drone capabilities, particularly its Shahed drones. These have caused significant damage across the region, targeting US bases and resulting in casualties. Sixth major consequence, Trump failed to anticipate that this war would benefit Russia. Before the war, the US had been pressuring countries to stop buying Russian oil, even threatening tariffs. This was working. India had reduced its Russian oil imports by 90%. But after the war began and the Strait of Hormuz was closed, Gulf oil supplies were disrupted. Now, with Trump's implicit approval, countries like India are buying Russian oil again at higher prices. Previously, buyers demanded discounts of $10 to $15 per barrel due to sanctions. Now Russia is charging a premium. As a result, Russia is selling more oil at higher prices and earning an additional $150 to $200 million per day, amounting to roughly $2.5 billion in extra revenue so far. Even South Korea is now considering buying Russian oil, despite geopolitical tensions involving North Korea. At the same time, the U.S. is diverting Patriot missile systems from allies like South Korea to the Middle East due to shortages, putting its own allies at risk. In short, what was initially criticized as a lack of planning despite strong military capability has now evolved into something worse. No plan, questionable capability, and limited ability to defend itself or its allies. Now that the war has begun, victory for the U.S. and Israel will only be recognized if they can convincingly demonstrate that they achieved their objectives. However, if Iran's regime survives despite the destruction, it will declare victory. One defining trait of Trump is that he always claims credit, whether it's given or not. He rarely accepts responsibility for failure and instead seeks praise, even if he has to give it to himself. So the real question is, who will take the blame for the destruction caused by this war? Netanyahu? Arab allies? Or someone else? For now, Trump himself may try to shape that narrative, but ultimately, history will deliver its own verdict.